What's up, everyone? My name is Michael Burrell, and I am going to be showing you the shape tools and some of the modifier keys that go along with the shape tools in Adobe Illustrator CC 2019. Let's get started. I'm going to create a new file. I can choose Create New from my welcome screen, or I can go File, New. That's always available. And for this particular demonstration, it doesn't really matter what size artboard we use. So whatever you would like to go and grab, you can. And hit Create. I'm currently using the Essentials layout. And the minor difference I have to that is I prefer to use the Advanced toolbar, which CC 2019 introduced the idea of customizable toolbars. And if you do not have that and you would like to, you can choose these three little dots at the bottom. And up here, you can click this little drop down and choose Advanced over Basic. And if you have that, I'll show you the basic one is this. And again, I prefer to use the Advanced bar. So if you're not sure where things are, there you go. Also, I'll usually tell you, if I think about it, how to get to which tool. So right now, if I hover over Selection Tool, it's also something I can get to by hitting the letter V. So if I hit V, which you can see my little quick keys right down there, it says what tool it's going to bring up. All right, so let's get started. Our shape tools are mostly underneath this guy right here. If I hit the letter M, I can see my rectangle tool gets highlighted, right? And there's a little arrow facing down in the bottom of the right, and that again means there's more tools underneath. Rectangle, rounded rectangle, ellipse, polygon, star, and flare. We'll save flare for another time. We'll talk about the rest of these. First up is the rectangle tool. So let's click on that. Pretty straightforward. I click and drag out, and I get a rectangle. Now I can see different control points on here, right? Top, bottom, left, right, middles, but these are not the points that actually make up the shape. To see those, I can choose A or my direct selection tool. And when I have it selected with those, I can see that there's actually 4 points here. These are 4 anchor points that actually make up the shape, right? Those are the ones that control where those lines go. I'm gonna go back to my rectangle tool, draw out another rectangle, and I can draw one out, and this time I'll hold Shift, same on Mac or PC. And if I draw out a rectangle while holding Shift, it constrains proportions or makes this a perfect square. So I have a perfect square as opposed to a rectangle, right? I want to get rid of these now. I can select anything and hit the delete key, delete a shape, or I can Command A, I can select everything and hit delete. That's another way I can do it. So again, Command A, or on a PC, Control A. On a PC, the big difference, anytime I say Command on a Mac, it's Control on a PC for the most part. That's the only real major difference you have to think about there. All right, so that's our rectangle tool. I'm going to click and hold that down and draw out a rounded rectangle now. That's the next one down. Same idea, except if I grab this one with my direct selection tool, I'll see that each of those points or corners is made of 2 anchor points, not 1. So that is what gives it that curve. Okay? Same idea, if I hold Shift, I get a square now, but with slightly rounded corners. All right? I'm going to just, with my arrow tool selected, or V, my selection tool, I can select a little bit of each of those, it'll grab them both, and hit delete. All right, I'm going to click and hold down again. Now I'm going to go to my ellipse tool. With my ellipse tool, it's going to be an oval. And if I hold Shift, I'll see it's a perfect circle. And again, 4 points that make this up, top, bottom, left, and right. Okay, so there's 4 points to make up an ellipse or a circle, or a minimum of 4 points, I should say. All right. Command A, delete, click and hold down. I'm going to keep on the ellipse tool. I'm going to show you another modifier key now. The next one is Option. If I hold Option, it will draw out from the center. Now what I can show you a little bit better what I mean by that. If I clicked up here and I drag down into the right without holding anything, my shape goes down into the right. But if I were to do that while holding Option, my shape goes out in all directions, equidistant from the center, so it draws from center. And I can combine those. I can hold Option and Shift, and I can draw out a perfect circle out from the center, which with circles especially is a nice, easy way to line things up that comes in very useful at times. Okay. Click and hold down. Next tool is our Polygon tool. Click and draw out a polygon, and it is pretty freeform. It draws out from the center by default, and it draws a little kind of weird and wonky angle-wise. I can hold shift and that'll keep it straight. And you'll see that this drew a hexagon, or a six-sided shape, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Does not have to be a hexagon. A polygon can be any number of sides, 3 and up. So if I just, with a lot of these tools, all I have to do is select the tool and then click once on the artboard, and I'll get an option dialog box for that tool. I can put in an exact radius of how big I want this, and I can put in how many sides I have it. And by default, that radius that's showing is the size of the last shape I drew. So if I wanted to know how big this was, that's a nice way to say it. And now sides, this is 6, I can make it say 8, and it'll give me the same size, but an octagon now. I can also do this while drawing. So if I click and draw out, now it's giving me an octagon because that's the last thing I drew. But I can use the arrow keys on my keyboard, and I can hit the up arrow and add sides, or the down arrow, and I can reduce the amount of sides down to a square, a triangle. So again, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, so on and so forth. Okay, so it's a nice way to be able to draw shapes nice and quickly. Command A. And the next tool down is our star tool, and this is pretty similar to our polygon tool. I click and drag out, I get a perfect star. If I hold shift, it'll keep it straight. If I click once, I get radius 1, radius 2, and the amount of points. Radius 1 is going to be the overall size, right, from here to the outer point. Radius 2 is measuring to the inner point. So the difference between these numbers is that inset of the star. So, for example, if I made the outer 100 and the inner 75, it's a star with much, much less inset. If I made it 100 and the inner as a 10, it's a much, much more dramatic inset. And in the same way as the polygon tool, as I draw this out, I can hit the up arrows and I can change the number of points. So I can make this more of a sun or star shape. So if I start drawing out a shape and I realize that that's not exactly where I wanted it, while still holding down the cursor, I can hit spacebar and I can move it around, get it where I want, let go, and continue drawing. So if I started to draw something and I thought it was in the middle and it's just off by a little bit, I just hold shift and move over a little, just instead of starting over, something like that. All right, and you'll see all of these shapes that we just drew are all coming out the same way, which is a white shape with a black stroke or outline. And you can see that in a few different spots. So I put it on the gray so you can see that it's not see-through, it is in fact white. And I can see that here I have a fill of white and a stroke of black. And that shows again in my properties inspector, fill, white, stroke, black, and a 1-point stroke. So we know that's why it looks the way it does. Right? Those are the basic shape tools. We'll talk about modifying those shapes and tweaking those in the next video.